Some memoirs have to go to extraordinary lengths to get themselves written. They dress up like novels in drag. They inter themselves in song. They become the stuff of theater. My memoir, the one you are holding if you are reading this, stowed away for 30 years in my visual art practice. During those 3 decades, I learned to stare down acres of blank canvas, but I couldn't seem to face the empty, ruled page. In paint, I had images and shape and form, furniture to hide behind. There were rules to follow, color theory and perspective, and if you dared to paint from life, there was that little matter of reality. But the bare page was a horse of a different hue. The bare page seemed to demand too much, each line a thin blue wave of provocation. Who do you think you are? In spite of my best efforts to not write, and believe me, I worked long and hard at not writing, my memoir eventually started to bleed out into my paintings. My first artistic attempts from the early 1980s were pleasing and pale watercolors, sporting pleasing and pale titles like Country and The View from Here. But it wasn't long before the titles started to gain a curious kind of traction. For example, even black would be better than gray. What the hell was that doing paired up with a small water-based ink drawing? And how about this? Babies are born in color. They must be taught to go gray. And this, the hungry wolves of the unlived life howl at the moon in the displaced dreams of nice girls. If there'd been a law against impersonation of a memoir by another art form, I would still be serving time. As the titles got more and more unwieldy, I started to run out of room at the bottom of the watercolor paper, which is where I would park them. Garlands of penciled handwriting, sometimes spanning the entire width of the piece. I was trying to slip the words in like fair-dodging stowaways, incidental and supplementary. The women's auxiliary. One early reviewer noted that my writing seemed to be competing with the visual impact of my paintings. I remember being seriously offended at the time, but in retrospect, I think my memoir was showing like a slip. Meanwhile, in the 1990s, I made the leap from watercolor to acrylic on canvas, and with the paper shelf no longer available as a tarmac, I had no recourse but to haul the words up into the paintings themselves. I scratched and scrabbled through layers of pigment. I used rub-on letter transfers. I bought alphabet stamp sets of varying sizes, and when none of them proved large enough for my purposes, I carved my own letters out of rubber. Over the years, I've become known as an artist who employs text. I'm quite sure I lost patrons along the way due to this predilection, but that's none of my business. The business of any artist is to take direction from her muses, not her shifting fan base. Over these same years, I started writing for performance, penning a succession of one-woman shows, some of which took on a decidedly memoir-like tone. I even gave a talk a few years ago at our local library called The Reluctant Memoirist. But it's one thing to deliver memoir transitorily into the air with your breath, and another thing altogether to commit it to hard copy. She Carried Her Heart Like Wings That Would Not Open is from 2000. If you are reading this, you might just be able to hear the sound of those wings in full operation.